But then I'm just remembering one of my friends, well, one of our friends, that has a relationship and is married, but none of us have ever seen his wife.
Yeah, that's
Where
very interesting.
none of us has spoken to his wife, don't know his wife. I've probably seen a picture. That's the most I've seen.
Yeah.
But they're still in a relationship. They're still thriving. He's still going on trips with her. He still has like kids with
Functioning
her.
family.
Functioning.
To give you a piece of my mind.
From Normal Bros, and we back at it again. First of all, I'm gonna need you to tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a mother effing friend to follow and subscribe to your boys. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other podcast platforms as well. You can catch us on YouTube and TikTok. That's Far From Normal Podcast. Make sure you type that into a search engine and see the boys on those clips. We got everything for you. We got the website, www.farfromnormalpodcast.com. We got all the links up there. Make sure you check it out. Of course, YouTube. We're on Instagram as well. That's far_from_normal_podcast. Check it out. You already know it's your boy Fuzzy Vision. You know I see the world clear, and you know I see the future, and the future is bright. You already know Fuzzy Vision with 2 N's. If you have any likes, dislikes, rebuttals, or you want to be on the podcast, hit your boy up. Sonny, drop the handle, baby. You already know what it is. It's your boy Sonny Frames. You can catch me on the gram at Sonny, SONNY, Frames, double S at the end. Make sure when you do check out my Instagram page, check out my stories, because I usually post a lot of stuff that has to do with motivation, inspiration, chasing your dream, and execution. So let's not forget, any dream that you're trying to achieve, the only way that you'll ever achieve it is through execution and putting a plan to motion. So make sure that you don't just stay in the dream world, and make sure you make it a reality.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
And Fuzzy, let's get him.
And starting off the year, I thought I did pretty well in terms of structuring my time wisely and trying to do what I can. I think every year you should be setting certain types of goals. I'm not really big on the whole January, what was it that
New
they was
Year's
calling it? Yeah,
resolution.
New Year's
Yeah, New Year's
resolutions.
resolution,
I'm not really a big fan of that per se, just because I think, one, it puts a lot of pressure on the individual to do something and stay with it. I think you should already start a process and then just kind of continue it, the layover for the next month. So it's just an overlap of what you already started.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's different for everyone, but
Okay.
The one thing I noticed, or one thing that people have told me, at least people that are going to be on like a successful path or look like they're headed towards there or already there, you have to write things down. I think that's what's underrated, what we don't talk about. I think we get distracted a lot. That's the problem nowadays, and with those distractions, you're not able to basically map out a plan for what it is you want to do. So that could be simple things, even like vacation, right? Like traveling, trying out new things, going to new places, seeing different things that are going on or whatever, whether it's festivals, conventions, conferences, blah, 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 whatever you want to get into. If you don't write down a certain game plan, if you don't have something set up, it's hard to achieve those goals. It's hard to reach those points. So I think that, you know, like you're talking about the New Year's resolution shit, it's a starting point, but I think you just have to recalibrate, you know, every couple of months. Some people do it every quarter. So like obviously the years are split up into 4 quarters. So you can do every quarter, you do a review on you know, what you've done or what you haven't done and what you still want to accomplish. Because I think if you break it down by say 4 months a piece, in those 4 months you can make a difference in decisions you make, right? So I think that breaking down your months like that and having a plan that you've actually written down and you can look back and read and, you know, try and plan for it, I think that's the best strategy when it comes to being efficient with your time, especially if you want to achieve something.
That's interesting. That's an interesting way of looking at it. But do you think it's just hard for an individual to get to that mind state of What do you think is the hardest part? Do you think the writing it down? Because I'm just trying to understand where people struggle with that issues.
I think for myself, the hardest part is sitting down and having that point of reflection. I think you have to reflect. So if you're not able to reflect and look in the mirror or sit down and think to yourself about the things you want to accomplish and, you know, where you want to be, I think it's a hard conversation to have with yourself. I think a lot of people don't have that inner person, you know, telling them that, hey, we're destined for better things. We should be doing this with our time. We should be doing that with our time. Like I said, with distractions, and it depends. Everyone's distraction is different.
Okay.
Because people have vices, right? Stuff that are addictions. Stuff that distract them to the point where they find themselves not having enough time to write things down.
Okay.
So you have to kind of schedule it. You have to be organized in life. That's what I also realized. If you're not organized in life, it's gonna be hard to piece things together because when you're organized, it's step by step. You just need to follow the steps that you've created for yourself. But when you're not organized, you're missing steps. You're lagging behind. You're forgetting to do certain stuff. There's no discipline. There's no routine. So obviously, nothing's gonna come out the way you want it to come out. So like, why people have issues with it is because they're so distracted and they never put the time to like reflect that much, or they reflect and then they don't do action. They don't write it down because that's something new to them.
Okay.
To write something down is going to be new to a lot of people, especially when you're out of school. You don't really write things down. That's never something taught to us. Like when you left school, did you go home and write down what happened in your day or stuff like that? This is not really taught to us. I think as you get older, you have to take responsibility for your life. So you have to map it out.
Okay. Well, you mentioned something that I thought was very important when you're talking about distraction. And speaking of distractions, we're going to segue it to a more relationship standpoint.
Yes, sir.
When we talk about distractions. And do you feel sometimes getting into a relationship or pursuing a relationship can be a distraction, or do you think it can be beneficial?
I think it depends. It depends on the understanding you have with that individual.
Okay.
So I always say, like, say you're chasing something, say you have big goals, big aspirations that take up a lot of your time.
Yeah.
You have to first ask yourself, do you think you can accomplish this with someone in your life, like where you can give time to that person and also have time to get what you need done? And then you have to ask yourself, is that person taking away from you or giving back to you? So when I say taking away or giving back, I'm talking about everything from, you know, energy to you know, support, you know, whatever which way that they can help you out.
Yeah.
But point of the matter of what I'm trying to say is, are they taking from you? Are they taking too much energy out of you, so that when you're trying to perform your actual duties or you're trying to, you know, go after your dreams, have you expelled all your energy on this person and this relationship, or do you have enough energy to get that thing done and you're at peace with your relationship? So I think it always comes down to the state of your relationship. In the early stages, yes, it's going to be tough to deal with having a relationship and trying to chase what it is you're going after, just because there's going to have to be a lot of adjustments and sacrifices. So with that being said, I would say that a lot of relationships could cause, you know, distractions if the relationship's not a sound relationship. If the person that you're with is on board with what you got going on and maybe can assist you or tries to help you, I believe that's how it could work. If they're not really interested or they're not really helping you out with that, I think it's probably better off, you know, you stay outside of that relationship, just because, you know, you don't want to give your all to the relationship when your goals are bigger than that. So I think you have to weigh out what's bigger to you, what's more important to you. Is the relationship with this person more important to you, or is it you chasing the goals you set out to chase to be the man who you want to be? That's the determining factor for me. So I have to weigh out the two options. Sometimes, you know, a relationship can be the best thing for you to progress, and then sometimes it can be the worst thing for you. I think you have to look for somebody that's very compatible with your lifestyle and what you got going on and what you're trying to pursue in order for that to work.
Okay, that's very interesting.
But I want to ask you the same question. Like, how about, what do you think about that, being in a relationship, and also, or do you think being in a relationship could be a distraction when you're trying to get your stride, you know, especially if you have big goals, you're ambitious, and just trying to live your life at the end of the day as well?
So what I would say to something like that is, you mentioned earlier that you need to be organized. You need to organize your time. You need to kind of get down, especially when it comes down to, you got to get your thoughts in order when you're talking about how to structure your time and like to hit goals, right? So when you're in a relationship, I think it kind of has the same concept, where you got to structure your life and organize it and manage it in a way where it can fit into your current cycle of affairs that you do on a daily basis, but you just needs to be, it has to be prioritized to a certain extent and just fit in within the frameworks of what you currently do. So that means there's gonna have to be certain things that you drop that are not as that are not necessary or not so important, and then you focus on like the major things, you know, going to work, staying in shape, building your relationship with your partner, just chasing your dream at the same time. And then you mentioned another thing where you're talking about they have to be in alignment with what you're doing. That's very important, because if they're not in alignment with what you are trying to achieve and the dreams and aspirations that you have, it becomes problematic because it slows down the process. Because now you're dealing with a situation that is taking your energy away from, and it's taking your mind off the major thing that you were going after at the very beginning. So they're more of a deterrent rather than, I would say, rather than being helpful in a sense. So I think a relationship can definitely be managed, because people do it all the time. They have families, they're still chasing their dreams and aspiration and goals, and they're still hitting high benchmarks and you know, reaching new plateaus, doing amazing feats in life. Like a family and a relationship, that doesn't necessarily stop you from going after what you want in life. Is just how you structure it, and I guess you just got to be more mindful with time and being as efficient as possible. You can't just really sit there and take a long break and be like, you know what, and just kind of let it all work out for itself. It's just like working out. You got to set a period of time for working out in order for you to get it done, or it won't get done.
Okay. I have a question too. Actually, this is a little bit different, a little not off topic, but changing courses a little bit. I actually wanted to talk about just like relationships, as we're talking. You know, if we find certain, or if we find relationships to be a distraction when it comes down to chasing your dreams or whatever. But I also wanted to ask, like, because I've seen many relationships, and I think a lot of people have this time concept with relationships. Like, how long should you be with somebody? How long should you be talking to somebody for? How long should you be in a relationship before you get married, type of thing? Like, there's always time limitations to when certain things should commence, when certain shit should start, when certain shit should end. So when it comes to beginning a relationship, there's a lot of back and forth with this, because a lot of the times, especially in this day and age, a lot of people are in situationships, of course, right? So in a kind of relationship without the commitment, right? That's what I kind of look at like situationships as. You're in a relationship because you spend time together, but you're not in a relationship because you're not exclusive. Like you haven't told people that that's your boyfriend, this is your girlfriend. Like it's not officially known to maybe your friend groups and stuff like that, but they know that you're close with somebody. But you being close with somebody, what's the process to even getting into a relationship? Because some people are under the impression that you have to spend a certain amount of time and then a relationship is warranted, because the question is, what are we? What's happening next? What's this? What's that?
Yep.
So it's always based on a time limit that one person or the other person sets in their head.
Yes.
And then they're waiting for that time to come to say, okay, where are we headed to now?
Yeah.
When it comes to that time limit, are you a time limit guy, or you need to do your due diligence when it comes to dating?
It's funny because that I will answer that question. There's just something in that what you were just talking about that I picked up on, where you mentioned you said that the whole a relationship is not a relationship until like everybody starts to, like, your friend group knows about it, like it's official in that sense. But then I'm just remembering one of our friends that has a relationship and is married, but none of us have ever seen his wife.
Yeah, that's
Where
very interesting.
none of us has spoken to his wife, don't know his wife. I've probably seen a picture. That's the most I've seen.
Yeah.
But they're still in a relationship. They're still thriving. He's still going on trips with her. He still has like kids with her.
Family.
A functioning family. So how important is that for your close-knit circle to know about the relationship you're in? But just hold that thought.
Yeah.
Hold that thought. I'll answer the question that you were mentioning. The question that you were mentioning was about time and
time limit and due diligence. Is it based on time limit, or is it based on other things? Because people have time limits, to me, don't make that much sense.
Yes.
Because a time limit is only a time frame. It depends what you did in that time frame.
Yes.
It depends how closely were you connected in that time frame.
Yes.
So everyone's time frame is going to be different. That's when I asked you the question. So for you, again, is there a time limit that you're dependent on, or is it based on due diligence, where certain things can commence quicker or some things take longer?
I think due diligence and time frame both play a role, in the sense that due diligence is you got to kind of know who you're dealing with, and you got to see different elements of the individual. Okay. I think at the very beginning and the early stages, you don't quite understand who a person is because they're on their best behavior. And I think over time, different elements of the individual starts to come out, starts to show its face.
Okay, so hold that thought. So you were saying that you do your due diligence and you because you don't know who the person is and any of that sense, and you're still filling them out. So with that being said, that fill out process, you don't know who they are, and typically you won't ever know who they truly are, if you've never spent like so much time with them. I mean, if you know someone, it's just like if you had a friend that you've known for a year or two, do you think you know that friend's whole life? Do you think you would trust them with a lot of things or deep secrets, like somebody that's a friend of yours?
So it's funny that you mentioned that, because I've started to reflect on those type of questions, because I have a really old friend, and that friend has known me, like technically he's known me since I was 5 years old, like 3 or 5 years old, somewhere around that time frame. And we still talk till this day, but there's like long gaps in between. We still know each other. We still kind of know like what's going on in each other's lives and stuff of that sort. I've been to his wedding, been to his house multiple times, but that time frame and like that lack of communication, I was just thinking, how much of a friend is that individual? And then I was also thinking about, even on a relationship standpoint, where if the person is communicating every day to you, does that speed up the time process? Like, or do they have to be face to face? Like, do you have to necessarily be face to face with them and do things with them for the timeline to be sped up, or if they're speaking to you every day and you're getting to know them in that fashion, does that make your situation different?
It's tough to say. That's why when it comes to relationships, it's hard to have a time limit. And I notice with a lot, especially with women,
yes,
they always have time limits because they feel like they don't want to, waste too much time, or they don't want to invest the emotions necessary to be in a relationship if that's not where it's headed. So my issue with that, though, is...
Can I just stop you right there? So in that, what you just said, their thing is where they don't want to waste time in the sense that, and they don't want to waste their emotions on the situation that's not going to turn out into anything, is because they want to know that it's going to be going in that direction.
Yes.
They want to know, I think what women want to know is if you're actually serious. I think that's what they struggle with, because if you just want to kind of take them for a ride, then they're like, I'm not on board for that.
Yeah.
Is that you're flip-floppy, you're not like really, I'm here, I'm there, I'm not there.
Yes.
They want to know that us talking and us doing things together is going to lead somewhere. If not, let me just hop off this boat right now.
But the problem with that is that sometimes they want to double dip. Like, this is just how things are, where it's like, they want you to take them serious, but they still have men in the talk that are still messaging and still getting some attention from that woman, and it's almost like a race to the finish line where you're competing in order to make her your girl, or get her full attention, and not until you make the commitment, she's still gonna be floating in the field, right? So I think a lot of the times the commitment is, to men at least, or even some women can view it this way, but a sort of close the door technique where it's like we can shut off all our other options and just focus on each other. Like, we can now close the door on anybody that was trying to get inside the club. We can shut the doors now. That's what the relationship typically is supposed to do. Shut the doors for other potential pursuers, right? So that's where a lot of people get into relationships, not necessarily because they want a super long-term relationship, or they think this woman's a woman they're gonna marry or anything like that, but also it's at the fear of losing the woman a lot of men deal with.
That is one of the cases.
So a lot of men, when they're in a scenario where it's like, okay, we've been talking for 3 months, like, what's happening? You can either acquiesce and say, like, yeah, we're headed down the right path, blah, blah, blah. Like, yes, the relationship's next. You acquiesce. You can do something you don't necessarily want to do just to keep the woman by your side. Or you can be honest. You can say what it is. But a lot of the times we get into relationships sometimes due to pressure. And that's not a good way to get into a relationship.
You're correct.
Unfortunately, the way people perceive relationships, like how I perceive a relationship and how someone else might perceive a relationship, are two totally different things. Some people are easygoing. They'll get into a relationship after a month of seeing somebody. And then some people, they'll get into a relationship after a year of seeing somebody, or 6 months. So it varies on the personality of the person. And I'm under the impression the more sought after you are, the more quickly you want to be bagged up, especially if you're a woman, because the fact of the matter is a woman can look at her options and be like, well, if you don't want to take me serious, I still have other options of people that are willing to take me serious. So I don't want to do a casual thing with you because I want to get serious with somebody.
Wait, let me answer that question. So if they're sought after, why would they want to be taken off the market? If they have an opportunity and have all these options amongst them, why would they want to be scooped up? I'm trying to understand that.
I think they feel like, they might be more relationship minded.
So why would they use that as like a bargaining chip? And like, why would they put that out there and say, oh, well, since I got all this going on, if you don't take me serious, like, why would you give a man an ultimatum of that sort, knowing that you have all these options available?
Well, I think that in most cases, women are more arrogant than men when it comes to, what they can pull on the field.
Yeah.
And they know that, one guy is not the end all be all for them, especially a good quality guy. Like, they know they can probably find another quality guy, especially we're talking about good looking women that can command this type of thing. So if we're talking about a good looking woman, she might feel that, you know, you're a suitable guy for her, but she's not going to wait around forever for you.
But that's already a dangerous way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because if you're already about to give me an ultimatum and say, well, if you don't wife me up, I'm just gonna hit the road, what makes me think that me giving you security in a relationship will even change that dynamic?
Yes, that's an important thing, right? So like you said, if you're already pressuring me at this stage, saying that there's other people, you know, potentially vying for you, or you'll keep your eyes open for other, you know, suitors, that might to you be a red flag. You might say 100%. Like, wow, you're willing to just go check out your other options. Like, even in a relationship, that doesn't mean that wouldn't change. Even that doesn't change the mindset of you. Yeah, because the mindset's that you'll get the best you can get if it's out there.
Yes.
But some people put you in this bind for sure for when it comes to
relationship. Of course, I know that.
To me, a lot of times you get into a relationship, sometimes you're manipulated into it, right?
Yes.
Like I said, you have fear over losing a woman or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, this is why, you know, I don't really pay attention to the time limits that people put on it, because at the end of the day, I have to think of it this way for me personally. If you're with somebody and you're doing the right things, that person trusts you, you trust them, you know, you're not having issues and stuff like that, and you're moving like a unit, I don't think, you know, sometimes you have to officially make that situation a relationship per se that like everyone knows about.
Yes.
You could do that if you're an open person and you don't care. But I think even when you get into a relationship, especially in the early stages, you should keep it under wraps. Yeah. Let it develop a little bit. As you guys are, you know, just figuring out each other in that relationship, I don't think we should make everything so public.
Yes.
And I think that's where the troubles happen.
Definitely.
It's when it becomes public, now you have to deal with other issues, and that's external people.
Yes.
So a lot of times relationships start breaking down because you have other people that are getting involved in a relationship that have nothing to do with it.
Yes.
And sometimes you can be with somebody that has a storied past, that maybe you know someone that girl slept with.
Yes.
She knows someone that you slept with, or whatever the case may be. Or there was some girl that maybe you slept with not too long ago and she messaged you or something, and she seen a post that you posted, and now it's a back and forth between the girl and this and that. So a lot of the times drama can get started from publicizing a relationship, even if it ends quickly too.
Yes.
Right? It can get ugly fast and stuff like that. So I think you have to, the thing about relationships is that people want them to be public too quickly.
Yes.
I think the big thing is that you guys have to have an understanding before it goes public. You guys have to have an understanding of what you're getting yourself into, and you have to have a conversation of being public. And I think that instead of people scoffing, because there's always going to be two sides to the equation. There's always going to be the one person that wants to make everything public, and then there's going to be one person that wants to be private.
Yes.
This happens in all relationships across the board. So when the person wants to go public, the other person going to be like, no, I want to be private. Then the person that wants to go public, they're going to be weary and say, why don't you want to, are you hiding anything? And it's like, we're in this day and age where you want to publicize every single thing that's not necessary to publicize. Your relationship has nothing to do with the outside world.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, you're in a relationship. You're not even in a marriage. So in a marriage, I understand you can show it to the world if you would like.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, I believe that, you know, keeping things private.
Even that, I think keeping things private in general would be a better situation than putting in the public.
Absolutely. Only close friends, people that you mess with truly, instead of getting everyone else involved in those scenarios. So like I said, when it comes to time limits, I think that's different for every single person. I think due diligence is your best bet, because sometimes you're just hanging out with a person and you're having fun with them, and you've had fun with them for 6 months, but did you really look at who you're dealing with? Did you really try and understand who you're dealing with? A lot of the times, like you said, they're on the best behavior at the beginning. That's how everyone is. You don't know their past. You don't know what they've done. You don't know if they have issues. So you're in the honeymoon stage. So with that being said, sometimes time can fool you. Time cannot be your.
It's not always your ally.
It's not always your ally, because sometimes the short time, like even though 6 months may sound long, it's a short amount of time.
For sure, especially if you have a long-term relationship,
and depending how much you see that person in that 6 months, right? Sometimes,
but that's what I'm saying.
Once a week.
Is it dependent? Your relationship, or you building towards a relationship, is it dependent on you seeing the individual, or is it dependent on how much you communicate?
I believe it's on seeing the individual, not just the communication. I think the communication has to be then phone conversations. Like you calling the person and talking to them and feeling their energy and having that familiarity with their temperament, with their mood, and those type of things. I think like texting and stuff like that's dead. That's robotic.
Okay.
Anyone can do that. I don't think you get a deep connection through that. I think you could get some information off of that. Like people can explain stuff and you can go into great detail. But truly knowing someone is spending time with them.
Spending time, you're right. Quality time is definitely the most important. If you can meet up with them, I guess that would be your best method, and that would be the determining factor for what will happen in the future. But there's one thing that I did want to mention.
Yep.
There was a situation where a person told me that she was seeing a guy for 4 months, and that didn't end up working out. And what that told me was, imagine if a guy decided to commit to a girl after 1 month, just to know in the next 4 months it's gonna be over. Or like you hear relationships that lasted only for 6 months or lasted only for 8 months. Why did that happen? Because they started to see traits that they didn't see in the earlier stage, earlier stages.
Yeah.
They started to see it afterwards, right? From hanging out, going to certain situations, and then how they behaved, how they reacted to those situations. Then they're like, damn, like I didn't know this person was like this. So that's why due diligence is so important, because when you're put in a scenario or your back is against the wall, then you see a person for who they truly are. And what's behind all the facade, and all the smoke and mirrors.
Like I said, it's tough in this day and age just because, with social media, with access and the amount of options that every single person has. I mean, like we are taking risks dealing with someone we don't know. Like we're taking a big risk. And I think again with time, especially when it comes to time. When you're in a community or something like that, I think that time's shortened because I think because if you have a mutual friend group that knows that person, it doesn't take as much legwork. And I think that's what some people don't understand too. When you're meeting a total stranger, you don't know them from anywhere. So 4 months is not enough time because you could have been talking to that person for 4 months, but you've literally only known that person for 4 months. When do we incorporate how long you've known someone?
That's important.
To how long you've been with somebody. I've known you for 4 months. Yes, we've been talking, but I'm trying to figure out in 4 months a lifetime of things.
Who you are, that's the thing, actually.
Like, you get what I'm trying to say? Like, or I'm trying to figure out
people don't think about those things.
You belong in my life, like, with your current state and what you've became.
And what's 4 months to a lifetime?
4 months to a lifetime is nothing, especially if you get into relationships, like if your intentions are to marry, because I say don't get into a relationship unless you really want to take this girl serious. My whole thing is just like, 4 months is a little time. Because if you're gonna take them serious, it's like it's not that much. It's not that much time that people make it out to seem, and that's where the pressure of like men get, where it's like they'll throw you. You know, you might just be enjoying your time with this person, and it's like, so relationship talk. It's like, what are we? And it's like, well, am I not the person that starts the relationship? Am I not the person that goes to you and asks you to be in a relationship? I'm under the impression women are not asking guys to be in relationships. Like, men aren't asking women to be in relationships. The women are suggesting that.
Yes.
And then the men are either acquiescing or agreeing, whatever the case may be. But
definitely feeling pressured. They're either given an ultimatum,
100%,
they're feeling
100%.
pressured, or they're acquiescing to the demands of a relationship unwillingly.
But here's the thing: a lot of people don't have like a long-term vision, so they're like,
Yes.
okay, I'll be in a I think this is the thing: the nonchalant attitude of, I'll be in a relationship and we'll see where it goes.
Yes.
But it's like, no, you may as well date and see what's happening before you get into the relationship. Just say, I think we should continue dating because I'd rather spend more time with you and see if this is truly something we want to do or not. And we can both agree to that. But let's make a smart decision instead of an impulse decision off my feelings. Like, yeah, like, of course we should get in a relationship. If we just went on vacay and did this and did that, you're going to think to yourself because the emotions would be heightened of excitement and this. Especially when you have a girl or have a guy that you're doing new things with, everything's nice. So, like, those moments will make you feel good about the person and make you feel like you want to make a relationship out of this because you're like, we're always having fun. We're always having fun. But here's the thing. Life's not about always having fun. Relationships not about always having fun. Where's the problems? Where's the dramas? Where's the miscommunication? Where's all the issues that come with the relationship? Where has that shown its face?
So it's not all smooth sailing, is what you're saying.
And I think you have to see the rough patches to know whether it's something you can deal with moving forward. Because at the end of the day, it's just like a woman that's, say, violent. You're not going to know she's violent if you never did anything atrocious to her.
Yes.
If you never riled that emotion in her, why would you ever have to experience it? But had she been in situations where she's been in, say, domestic violence, like, you know, whatever the case may be, she might be more volatile than you think. And then maybe something happens and she ends up smacking you in your head.
Yes.
And now you're like, wow, I didn't know I was with the aggressive chick.
Yes.
That's not what I wanted.
So I think a lot of the issues also stems from bait and switch, where you know, a lot of women.
Well, explain that. Explain bait and switch.
So that's what I was gonna do. So what a bait and switch is, a woman will present herself in a certain manner, and her mannerisms will cater to your liking, and then somewhere down the line, when she's gotten you right where she wants you, she turns into something else. Well, she doesn't turn into something else. She becomes what she's always been.
Yes.
Right? So the mask comes down and the curtains open up, and then you see her for who she truly is. And sometimes when a man gets into a situation like that, it could be very catastrophic.
Of course.
In the sense that, like, it could turn your... Disastrous, catastrophic, chaotic, all of those words combined, because it could turn your world upside down. You could bite more than you can chew. Is that the right say?
Bite more than you chew.
Yeah. So exactly. So you could be put in quite a pickle, especially if you yourself is a healthy individual and your emotions are all stable and you all have no real mental issues and stuff of that sort, no psychological issues, you don't go to therapy, nothing of that sort. So you're a healthy individual, and then you bring this person that, you know, is chaotic and disastrous and coming in there and just created a whole tornado, throwing you off your game. All of a sudden you're not showing up for work, you're going through all these you know, psychological issues, and you're trying to cater to this woman because you've already been so deeply invested, and now you're trying to cater to her every will and, you know, make sure she's happy, but now you're not happy and now you're struggling and you're putting yourself in tough scenarios. Like, you see guys all the time where they start to break down and, you know, they're not who they used to be. I know women go through their own situation with men as well, right? Men can be that person as well, where they're chaotic and disastrous and, you know, causing a whole tornado in their lives. Where they're healthy. They came in as a healthy individual.
It's the same way on both sides.
Yeah, they came in as a healthy individual, but then this person has all this trauma from past relationships or just past trauma from their own upbringing.
Yes, exactly.
You know, and that they never dealt with. And now they're taking it out on you. And, you know, they're calling you names and verbally abusive and possibly domestically abusive. And now you got a whole situation in your hand that you didn't account for because you didn't do your due diligence. So it's not necessarily about the timekeeping and having that, so we've been together for, let's say,
it's in January. It's now.
January. No, we've been approximately 6 weeks now.
2 hours.
So
27 minutes.
Exactly. Like,
what does that matter?
That does not indicate who a person is.
Yes,
we cannot be timekeeping.
Yes.
We need to make sure that if you're going to take something serious, that you need to make sure that you're doing your due diligence, and whatever time frame it takes, the person should be okay with it. If she sees it going, or he sees it going in the right direction, where it seems like they're on board for a relationship to come in the near future, you should just sit back and wait for it to happen.
I think that's the risk you're gonna have to take, especially if it's with somebody that. If you just suggest a relationship to somebody and they seem like, you know, they want a relationship, but they maybe like want to see with more time and see how things go, I think you have to let that ride out. I think you have to roll the dice, especially if it's somebody that's you believe could be in your future. Yes, you're gonna have to roll the dice.
Well, both parties are rolling the dice.
Yes, on both sides.
Yeah, because it's like you're waiting for the relationship. They're making sure that this relationship can last. And then they're taking a gamble when they get into the relationship and making sure that it goes the full course.
Yep.
Right? And then the other person is there on edge because they want to be in a relationship because they can see the potential.
Yes.
But it's like there has to be a give and take, and there has to be an understanding, because again, a lifetime is a long time, and it's a big investment on both parties. So they both have to have trust in each other. And I think even in that time period of getting to know somebody, I think building that trust is the most important part, where it's like I could tell you certain things and I know you're not going to go back and tell other people. You know, you're gonna keep it between me and you.
Like I said, there's lots of trials in a relationship. I think a lot of people have in their head it's like supposed to be this easy thing, and everyone gets into them.
Trials and tribulations, for sure.
Yeah, it's a reason why a lot of relationships aren't working out.
Yes,
it's a reason why you date somebody
especially in this country.
And speaking of dating, it's a reason why people are in many relationships.
Yes,
right.
Yes,
and speaking on many relationships and why they've ended, who knows why? But point is, a lot of people are in many relationships by, say, our age.
Yes,
and that would be in their 30s, right? So if you've been in multiple relationships as a woman, I'll speak in the sense of, you know, a man's point of view. How many relationships do you consider to? How many relationships do you believe a woman, if she was in the past, do you believe that gives her a good experience at being in a relationship or bad experience?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I wanted to use that one for a woman, like to ask that question to a woman. But from a male's
we'll say from a male's point of view, like them having a lot of past relationship, does that make them more experienced at dating and have more of an understanding of dating, or does that make them worse at dating because they've had that many failures of relationships?
So we've had an interview in the past with a woman, and we've mentioned this same question actually.
Okay.
And her understanding was, she looked at it and said, well, due to my extensive period of dating, that allowed me to understand what I want and what I don't want. And I remember I countered it by saying that if you know what you want and what you don't want, why are you still dating? I always thought that after dating, there's supposed to be an end goal to dating, not to just keep dating around and going through different cycles of relationships and having different experiences, because now I'm under the impression that you're not looking for anything serious because of the amount of dating you've been doing. It looks like you're after a high, a dopamine hit, where you want the butterflies in the stomach, you want the first date, and you like the courtship, you enjoy those first moments of doing this and that.
It's fun for
it's fun, exactly. It's a roller coaster ride. It's taking your emotions everywhere. You know, you're feeling different, but eventually that fades. So once that fades, are you telling me that now you're just gonna walk away and be like, you know what, I want that experience again? So for you, this is not something serious. So how can you sit there and tell me that, well, due to my extensive period of dating, I understand what dating entails? What it really tells me is you're one of those toxic individuals in the dating field playing with people's emotions.
Yes.
Because you're walking away every single time, or he's walking away at the end of the day, and then
So you're saying that person would be a red flag to you if they had a lot of past relationships?
Definitely.
And so what's worse then? A woman that has been in a lot of past relationships, so we're talking about, say, by the age of 30, say she's been in 10 plus relationships. So like officially with somebody, boyfriend, girlfriend. Say she's been in 10 plus relationships, she's now 30. Or a woman that's been in 3 relationships and is now 30. Which is better, which is worse to you?
Definitely the woman with the 3 relationship. That would be better by default, just because it's not so much experience in the field. I think with 10 plus relationships, that tells me that you don't. You know what it tells me? It tells me that you have a level of lack of patience. And it tells me that you live in a more microwave state of mind where everything has to be ready-made. And you're very feeling based. Once you don't feel the feelings that you want, like you're not getting the adrenaline rush, you're not getting the dopamine hit, you're going to be quick to step out.
But would you just gather this from that alone? So again, if a woman comes to you or you're dating a woman and you ask the question, how much relationships you been in, and she tells you a number that say high, do you already disqualify, or you have to hear the explanation of how those relationships started and ended?
Well, you got to understand.
Is the red flags the amount of relationships?
I'm telling you, you got to understand. 10 plus relationships, there's no questions I need to ask you at this point. The question, you've already answered my question. The fact that you're in 10 plus relationships tells me that you don't have any idea what you're looking for.
That's true.
So me coming into the picture, that I'm just gonna be the 11th. Like, you already showed me that you're incapable of making the choice yourself. Somebody else needs to make the choice for you. I'm not even gonna entertain that.
Okay.
I'm not even gonna entertain it, because I think this is more something internal that you need to fix within yourself. Because you can't tell me 10 plus relationship, you couldn't find anybody that you wanted to stick around with.
That is true. That would show a lot of.
How about yourself?
It'd be problematic. It'd be completely problematic, because my whole thing is, the more relationships you've been in, that means the more relationships you've ended or have been ended, that shows that there's more issues than positives. Shows there's more negative than positive. Because at the end of the day, out of 10 people you're in a relationship, 10 didn't work.
Yes.
100% failure rate. And with those type of numbers, that's like in a basketball reference of you like shooting 0 for 10, right? Like, stop shooting threes at this point. Like, you're obviously not a good 3-point shooter.
Yes.
We obviously figured that out by today, or at least for this game. So there's no more shots left for you. So I think that's what happens if you bump into like a woman that's been in this situation, or even a man that's been in this situation. A woman bump into a man that's been in this situation, you know, that would signify that probably this woman or man has problematic personality issues that don't allow them to be committed long term. Because out of 10 relationships, you're not going to tell me that the guy messed up all the time.
That's
or
what
that
I'm
the
saying.
opposite person messed up every single time, right? That can work with 3 relationships. You can say, well, the 3 of them cheated, you know, or 1 abusive, 1 cheated, 1 drug addict. Like, you could kind of mix it. Don't get me wrong, those are all terrible things, you know, but just to say, it's easier for you to kind of have an explanation on why it ended. We all know relationships end anyways, so it's not like we're gonna be like, oh, why do you have 3 relationships, why did they end? It's like, well, there are 3 relationships in how many years, right? So at the end of the day, I believe that, you know, the more relationships you've been in, that means you're a person that lacks patience. Impatient.
Definitely impatient.
So you're a person that, you know, wants things to be ready to go, ready, set, go. You know, fast paced, no thought process of taking your time slow within. So that's what that would tell me. So for me, I would say to myself, if you've been in 10 plus relationships and you're looking for the 11th, you're talking to the wrong guy.
100%.
Because at this point, I'm just looking at you like a woman that's not that serious. So when when you see, sometimes you lead, they say lead by example, right?
Yes.
So sometimes you follow the examples that people have set, or you avoid people from the examples that are being set by them. So if they look like they have a pattern that is negative in your point of view, you avoid that.
Yes.
So with that situation, that patterning would not show any positive signs to me. It wouldn't tell me that you're somebody that's sought after, nor somebody that's desirable to be with.
Mm-hmm.
You might have a good personality. You might have, you know, good traits. You might treat me as the 11th, as the best out of all those guys. But with that type of track record, again, we're risk adverse. We don't want to take risks when it comes to getting into a relationship. I don't think any guy wants to, with the horror stories that have been told to every single man.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, somebody that's fickle is probably the worst idea you could worst idea in taking them serious, I'd say, because again, the grief that you have to deal with getting into a relationship and trying to cut things off is just too much of a headache to deal with somebody that you're not even wanting to take that serious, I would say.
No, 100%. I think that, again, lack of seriousness.
Yes.
I mean, there's no way you could possibly tell me that you are a serious person, serious individual, in terms of you're genuinely looking for a relationship and you do want to build with one of those individuals, because I would say any one of those individuals that you're with, you had a level of attraction to them.
Yep.
And we got to understand, for each relationship that you're in, how long did those last? We're talking about 10 plus.
Well, yeah.
How many years were you in with all these guys?
You can do the math. It'd be a lot of short relationships.
So wouldn't that tell the story? So when you ask me the question, you're asking me...
Because I'm talking about dating from, say, 18. I'm not going beyond that. So from 18 to 30,
I mean, I'm just
you're only in a 12-year span. So most you could have been is like 2 years per
but even at that, it's like, do I really need to... I just got to calculate it in my mind. I don't need to... You saying 10 plus relationship is automatically... I calculate that in my mind and say, this math ain't mathin'.
Math ain't mathin'.
Like, that's a real thing. So...
That is true. Because I just wonder about that, because some people have the idea, oh, well, this woman, she's been in a relationship. At least she knows what, like, you know, she's more serious because she's been in relationships. She's actually attempting to take people seriously, compared to, say, the woman that's that same age that has only had 3 boyfriends, but who knows in her spare time what she's doing, right? Like, because with the 3 relationship, how about she's only in a year relationship at most with those 3 guys within a 12-year span?
Yeah.
Right? Like, say she's only in a relationship for 3 years of that, every guy a year per, and then the 12 years she was just single, gallivanting, right? So it's one of those things. It's like, well, if she was single for 9 of those years, what was she up to those times? Was she just messing around? So what's worse, you know, a girl just messing around with guys not getting into a relationship, or girls that been in a relationship? That's what I wanted to know in your sense.
That's very interesting. It's funny because even with that question, I wanted to do a follow-up question to that. And I wanted to ask the question of what's the most, not even what's the most, how long do you think a person should take if they were trying to get married to an individual? After they've done the due process, you know, they've done the due diligence, they get into a relationship. What do you think, generally speaking, is a good time frame?
If you did your due diligence, spent the time after. So I'm talking about you've been in a relationship for over a year with this chick. Over a year, then that's up to you. At that point, like, so... You have to have known the woman for over a year. Okay.
So 1 calendar year, okay.
Full year. At least have to know a woman for a full year.
Yeah.
Now, if you get into a relationship with her, that's another year.
Okay.
So you seen her outside of a relationship for a year. You're around her when she was outside of a relationship for a year.
Yeah.
You don't have to be talking to her for that full year, but you've seen her out and about. You've seen her move in different places. You have mutuals. You've known her for a year, and you know people that know her. So that's the key. You have to know people that know her within that year.
Okay.
Year, get to know the person. You could be dating within that year. Now, if you decide to make them serious after a year of knowing them, year of talking, or less than a year of talking, but just knowing them and being around them within that time period, now you're onto the relationship stage. Now, for that relationship, another year. Got to do a whole year with that relationship. After that point, depending where you're at in life, I think after a year or a year and a half of being in that relationship, I think most men that are where they need to be, they should be able to make that decision of whether this is a woman they want to pursue seriously.
True.
They should be thinking for sure
of the future,
of what's gonna happen in the next year or the next 6 months. And if you're marriage minded, for sure marriage is coming pretty soon, guaranteed.
I think that's a safe assessment. I think that's...
It just depends on the person's mind state. Again, if they're not marriage minded, all of this is out the window. I'm talking about someone that's marriage minded. A relationship shouldn't take you over a year and a half to figure out whether you want to marry her.
But they say that actually. They say for men, they know within a year if they're going to marry a person or not. So anything after that is you're grasping at straws, or you're just kind of wasting your time.
Exactly. And the reason why
depends where you are financially as well.
Yes, and the reason why I say you have to know them for a year, the most important thing is knowing them and know who they're around, is because you have to have seen the woman in a frame outside of with you.
Yes.
Like you can't just see a woman in the frame of you courting her.
Yes.
Because then she's always on her best behavior if you're courting her. Of course, if you're bringing her places where she's supposed to be and having a good time, is she going to be miserable there? Like that would never happen.
Yes.
But when she's in environments, and of course, we're not talking about put them in stressful environments all the time. Some people are not confrontational, so they'll never be in a stressful environment. It'll be very tough for them to find them in one. But point of the matter is, you knowing them for a year and just being around them and seeing how they interact with guys, how flirtatious are they? How's their personality dealing with other people, friendships, like I said, other platonic relationships. How do they carry themselves when no guy's talking to them? Forget about when they're in a relationship. That's the thing. Women want to change when they're in a relationship or with the guy that they like, actually. But outside of that, if it's not a guy they're feeling that much, they might be living a wild lifestyle outside of that.
That is
so how are you supposed to know who she truly is? So you don't want to get a girl that, is wild on the back end and then she wants to be calm and tame with you. Yes. You want to know that she's calm and tame outside and she's calm and tame with you. It's not a bait and switch as we were talking about. I think you have to try and find that. So you have to try and see them in other environments that has nothing to do with you, and then you pursue it off that. But this is going to be with women that are around mutual circles and stuff like that. You're not going to get this from a dating app or somebody that you picked up on the street. That's going to be a different process, and that's going to take you probably more time. But I said, in a community, a place where people have mutual friends in a mutual circle, you can figure those things out, because they're going to be around people that, maybe challenge them or just arouse them in certain ways, so you can see their personality. If there's disagreements, you might be able to see certain things like that. If there's outings, you might see how they behave. Some people, when they go to outings, especially like party environments, they're drinking like crazy.
That too, right? You don't even know how,
they're doing all type of, they're doing the most sloppy. Right, so you don't know.
They could be a party girl, They could be a party girl that you didn't know of, because maybe if you never put them in that environment, you would never know that they're a party girl,
They could
right?
be a super drinker. They could be a big time smoker. They could do a lot of things you don't know. So I think you just have to see people in different environments, and this goes same for women. Yeah, I think women, unfortunately, here's the thing with women. They vet a lot of men. Like, they do a lot more legwork on the back end.
They do. I've noticed that.
It's strange to say that they're a little bit more prepared than us, especially when...
But yet they're not. they seem to be more prepared, but yet they're still falling victim into bad relationships. How does that work?
I think they're more prepared, but I think the emotional side is what triumphs and bend.
Okay, deviates
from the logical side, because I've known a lot of women to say like, oh, I knew he was trouble. I knew he was trouble. I knew he was trouble. But, you know, I wanted to see. I knew he was doing this then. I knew he was cheating. I knew he got girls. I knew he was doing. But it's like, oh, why'd you put up with it? It's like the excitement, the thought process of changing that person, the thought process of they can be different, the thought process that I'm the person that's going to change them. Whatever it is, it's always that. So they're not really great decision makers, but they are the type to do their due diligence. But sometimes when they do their due diligence, for some reason, they have leniencies on certain guys. So certain guys that have red flags, they ignore.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the difference. Where guys do the same, but then guys that do that most likely aren't taking those women seriously.
Yes.
And I think women that do that aren't taking those guys seriously too. They hope maybe it could be serious, but at the end of the day, they know most likely it's going to be short-lived, but they love the excitement. They like the attention of it. They like the feeling that they get. And, you know, it's just like being in a fast car and the adrenaline rush, that dopamine hit. This is what a lot of people look for, especially when it comes to love. People want a feeling.
Yes.
When it comes to a relationship, they want that butterfly in their stomach. They want to feel like, damn, like this guy got me floating, like this girl got me floating, got me feeling a different way, like a different type of energy. We try and grab people's energies.
Yes,
so
we do.
A lot of the times, if you get that energy and you feel like alive or out being around somebody, people yearn for shit like that. That's why they want to be around someone exciting, even though that person clearly has a bunch of red flags. Clearly
not the best fit.
Is not the best fit long term. They're kind of thinking to themselves, well, for right now, it's feeling like a good fit. Let me experiment. So there's a lot of experiments going on. People trying new people and seeing what's good, what works for them. And a lot of people are trying to figure themselves out, especially when it comes to relationships.
Yeah.
You have to know yourself before you can get into a relationship, bottom line. If you don't know who you are, what it is you like, what it is you expect, what it is you want out of a relationship, how do you expect to get into one? Without that understanding, you're just dating.
Yes.
That's how I view that.
And I thought that was a great thought. And God damn it, this is a great episode.
Yes, sir. This is one for the books.
Yes, sir. We just dropping gems. And this is Far From Normal Podcast with your boy Sunny Frames.
And your boy Fuzzy Vision.
And we are out. Deuces.